Question for you. You've looked at the viewer numbers. You know, we've got a healthy TV business, a healthy cable business. It works for brands. It works for viewers. It works for the networks today. How does Group M view the video market outside of that?
Well, we don't view the video market outside of that. We view the video market. And I think that's our responsibility for advertisers. And by and large, our clients are united by needing to deliver very significant volumes of communication and a very rapid cadence of communication, because they tend to make things of which they are selling hundreds of thousands or millions of units. And so the bigger advertisers like big numbers. And I think that when we observe over the last 3 years where the trends are going in percentage of all views of video, and we use that in the widest definition of video, somewhat surprisingly in some ways, the numbers that relate to television, and I'll stretch that to television-like content, longer form programs, remain, to most people's minds, astonishingly robust. The challenge, of course, is whether the attention to those numbers is as strong as it was at some point in the past, because we are seeing many simultaneous activities now of multitasking and second and third screening at a level that we haven't seen before. And one of the challenges that we have is, how do we either layer a discount on a television stream or add a premium into a user-initiated stream that somehow, if it's the case, reflects a truer proportionate value between the channels. And I don't think we have the answer to that yet.
Your clients obviously deal in huge numbers, as you said. Increasingly, those numbers are harder to get on traditional television. Can you tell me how you cope with that, how video plays into it, and how these campaigns spread across?
Sure. So we shouldn't go away and say the numbers are harder to get. What's harder to get is volumes of programs that are in and of themselves in single instances extremely large reach. So the number of very, very high rating programs as a total percentage of all broadcasts is reduced. Quite clearly, what we do and have always done is we aggregate audiences across the whole television and now video landscape to build to the numbers that we wish to build to. But it's an old sort of truism that I grew up with in media, that if you bought a 100 GRP campaign in 10 GRP spots, your reach would build more quickly and it would be more effective than if you bought that campaign in 101 GRP spots. And so the difficulty now is finding enough units of large audience to deal with it. Now, clearly, that doesn't mean that we don't get lots of people watching CSI and lots of people watching NCIS. But in order to get all of them, we are obviously using the initial stream, we're using the C+3, the C3 numbers, we're using the stream that goes out onto full episode players and so forth. And so we've always lived in a world of constant reaggregation. And one of the interesting things about the market, to me, and I'm not a television trader, I always thought the upfront was a place where the men were men and the shrimp were terrified, and always sort of confused me a bit. And I went a few times, it was kind of interesting. But what I kind of find interesting about it is that we've always been in this place of reaggregation, and it's just carried on, if you like. And so when we look at the online video market, we are looking very much, and we spend a significant amount of our clients' money on full episode players of one description or another. The place, I think, that has not taken a huge bite out of that huge big number that we talk about as television is really short form video. And even within the Google landscape and the energy that they've put behind their channels, and it's not just And obviously, there are many powerhouses within the YouTube ecosystem, like the Machinimas, like the Maker Studios, like the Vivos, and so forth. In all of those cases, it's about audience reaggregation rather than finding the moment. And it's the moment that's harder to get at now.
Can you get the moment if does real-time bidding on video play into any of this? It seems like these strategies are carefully crafted and planned well ahead of time. Can you get that additional audience or that moment through real time?
No, we've always been keen on spontaneity as long as it's very well planned and thought through. That's been very important to us. I mean, I think what's interesting is that the concept of audience buying, which those of us in the digital world who are digital natives think of as being new, because we invented a new word for it. It's like no one ever called this an analog watch until there was a digital one. You kind of need those things. You have to kind of retrofit language.
Facebook thinks GRPs are new, by the way.
And on Facebook they are, yeah. Sorry. I normally finish things I write about Facebook with the words, I'm not a shareholder in Facebook, but I actually am now a shareholder in Facebook, and for about a quarter of an hour I was doing incredibly well. Never mind. But at least I feel like I'm a stakeholder. I've got kind of chips in the game. And I was having that sort of envy thing that you get, and you see these people you think are going to make tons of money, you see their stock price going down, you think, yeah, go on. But now I actually own some of the stuff. My view on Facebook is far more balanced than it was before. But the audience buying isn't new at all, because if you actually look at it, and you look at it for mega packaged goods companies or automotives or anyone else, and you did a proportionate exercise and say, okay, what proportion of your total dollars are you spending versus what proportion of your GRPs are you buying? And it wouldn't be unusual to find a whole bunch of advertisers that are spending 50% of their dollars on 25% of the inventory they're acquiring. It's just that the 25% of the inventory they're acquiring is Monday Night Football, it's the NFL, it's the World Series, it's Idol, it's this, and those big reach programs are carrying a massive audience. And what people are doing around that, with far less discrimination from a contextual point of view, is then layering in all of the additional assets that they need to build the reach curves, and in order to satisfy the people they're making the contract with, that they can buy those first things. And to any real intents and purposes, that is audience buying. You're buying the same thing. You're buying lookalike demos. You're using analysis tools to find the same audiences on the Today Show for which you pay a premium, to find them somewhere else in the schedule where you're not paying a premium. And I don't really see the difference apart from the level of granularity of the detail and, if you like, the speed of execution in the real-time world. I think what the real-time world will do, as it should do when people have got it properly under their feet, it's going to make a number of marketplaces that at the moment are somewhat inefficient. It's going to make them more efficient. I think it's going to certainly allow you to react to changes in the marketplace when either you have an opportunity to stimulate demand because you see a particular niche in the market, either through the behavior of your consumers, your own distribution, or your competitors, and do something more quickly. And I think that the world will move increasingly real time, and I think there will be large chunks of inventory that we currently think of as television type inventory that will move to real time. What I don't think will happen is that we'll move to a real time bidding situation in that very top tier of large aggregated audience inventory, because it won't be in the interests of the sellers, effectively the rights holders, to their inventory to trade it in that way.
So where there's scarcity, primetime television, the Super Bowl, big sporting events, those things remain forward planned. And
yeah, but I don't think it's just those, because I think there's another aspect of it as well. I think that, you know, Mark Zuckerberg said, actually hasn't said that many things, but he has said social by design. And it's actually a really profound statement in a number of ways. And he talks about everything being social by design. And I think when he first said it, people didn't really kind of get what he was meaning. But I think that what he was suggesting is that if you make media, if you make a product, if you make marketing assets, you will be better and they will be better if they are things that people want to share and engage with and co-create and do all of those kinds of things. And I think one of the trends that we're seeing in all of media, not just in Facebook, which is just a platform, there is no content on Facebook, but we are seeing in all of media is that media is becoming social by design. I was having a somewhat drunken conversation with a friend of mine about 11 o'clock the other morning, about this very topic, and the speculation was, if J.J. Abrams had been writing Lost now, for example, how would Lost have come to market? And we were kind of figuring that all of the characters would, over a period of a year or 18 months, have had a timeline and a backstory on Facebook, despite the issue of authenticity of individuals and all that. And they would have all had their own Twitter feeds. Some of them would have been Tumblr, and they would have come together, apparently accidentally, in order to get on that damn airplane in the first place. And there would have been a whole weave to that. Now, we have many customers whose assets and brands are a bit less social from a potential point of view than maybe they would like them to be. And what I think will happen is that advertisers will get into the habit of saying, I want to join up my brand with the social stream as well as with the broadcast stream of whatever this program might be, in which case there will be more planned events on things like television rather than just the Super Bowl and Monday Night Football, but people will be looking to join themselves to a narrative of Real Housewives or a drama or whatever it might be.
One that you can latch onto, or one that you actually create, like with the Dove Real Women, or...
Absolutely, and there's a degree of difficulty in all of that. It's really hard to do the Dove Real Women thing. And I think the thing that's fascinating about that is that Rory Sutherland, who's the vice chairman of Ogilvy in Europe and approximately the funniest man alive on the planet today, Rory said there's a huge difference when you're trying to do these things between brands that have a positioning, because they've all got one of those, haven't they, and brands that take a position. And his argument is that what made the Dove campaign so successful was that Dove took a position about natural beauty, and they took it all the way through with Real Women, the Self-Esteem Fund for girls, etc., etc., etc. And it's kind of interesting to me, and it's not an original Rob Norman thought, this is a Rory thought, which therefore means you should give it much more credibility than if it was one of mine. But what Rory would argue is that when Evolution was made, which I think most of us would accept as being the first really, really big viral brand video, if Real Women hadn't existed, if Real Beauty hadn't existed, what context would Evolution have had, and would it have been the hit that it was? But they laid the groundwork and built the narrative around that, and I think people will carry on doing that. And there is an inherent contradiction, kind of structurally in marketing, between building those narratives and becoming very largely dependent on real-time bid inventory.